Hey everyone, Jeremy here. Just wanted to give a really quick heads up and apology for the audio on this episode. There's a sort of click in my audio that is being caused by a sketchy microphone that I tried my best to cut out as much as possible, but you are going to hear it. Fortunately, I've fixed that issue with a totally different mic, and we've been doing a lot to try and fix the general audio issues that we sometimes have. So, again, apologies for that, but this is a really great discussion of a film Elle brought to us that I think is worth checking out. Anyway, on to the podcast and enjoy.
Watch out for those weirdos.
We are the weirdos, mister.
Welcome back to the Final Ghouls of Horror. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Holly.
And I'm Elle.
We're three people who love horror and are coming at it from different perspectives of who we are, as well as very different levels of experience with the genre, which we're always excited to talk about. And this week, we're getting fused together into one as we take a look at 2015's horror comedy, Patchwork.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and toes. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and toes. Eyes and ears and mouth and nose. Head, shoulders, knees and toes. Knees and toes.
So, Elle, this was your pick. What is your history with Patchwork or Tyler McIntyre in particular?
Honestly, it was me remembering that I had a subscription to Shudder and basically never used it. So I was just scrolling through and it's like, that looks interesting. And wouldn't you know it, I think it is.
Yeah, no, that is totally fair.
So it's literally judging a book by its cover.
Listen, Shudder is great for that. You can go in there and say, oh, that movie poster, that looks ridiculous and interesting. Let me give this a shot. This title sounds insane. Let me take a look at this. And you'll find gems in there sometimes. That is totally fair. For me, I was unfamiliar with Patchwork before you mentioned it. I do know Tyler McIntyre, though, because I'm familiar with his, I want to say, second film. Maybe, I think it's his second film, Tragedy Girls, which is very good. I enjoyed it quite a bit. It is a teen prom slasher with a twist. I will put it that way.
I did see that in the suggestions of films to watch next, and it looked pretty good. I was actually thinking of putting it on our list, but there's so many already.
Yeah, there are a lot. That's fine. It'll just keep growing. Yeah, I do really like that one. So when you suggested this again, I'd never heard of Patchwork, but I looked as like, oh, him. Okay, and that immediately at least gave me a frame of reference. Holly, were you familiar with Patchwork, with Tyler McIntyre, with any part of this before it came up on our list?
None whatsoever. Aside from Elle mentioning it when we did that first episode of like us talking about our favorite movies, I'd never heard it before that. So
Yeah, that's fair. Well, we've all heard of it and seen it now, so let's get into it and talk about it. Holly, give us a little, and by a little, I do mean a little, production history, because there was not a lot on this particular one.
Patchwork was directed by Tyler McIntyre and co-written by McIntyre and Chris Lee Hill. It stars Tori Stopler, Tracy Fairway, Maria Blasucci, James Phelps, and Corey Sorensen. There isn't a lot of information on the film's production. McIntyre said in an interview with Scream magazine that he wanted to create a take on Frankenstein that was about what it meant to collect body parts needed to create the monster, specifically trying to collect the perfect person. He wanted to keep the film from the perspective of the monster, focusing on the three women and making them learn to get past their differences and work together. A different version of the film was originally conceived as a short film, which Tori Stopler also starred in. McIntyre had help from Reanimator director Stuart Gordon for this movie. Gordon gave McIntyre feedback on the script, which drew inspiration from films like Reanimator. Filming took just 15 days to complete. Patchwork did not get a high profile release, arriving straight to video on June 6, 2017, almost 2 years after its first screening at the Screamfest Horror Film Festival in October 2015. There aren't many reviews of this film, but it's more generally positive than not.
Yep, and that's about all we got. There is. I was trying to think of content warnings for this. Obviously, gore. I guess you could say a little bit of medical horror if that's a thing that really gets you. Honestly, I don't think there's a lot beyond that.
Implied sexual assault?
Yes, you know what? That is absolutely fair. Yep, maybe bit of gaslighting, but
Mm.
that's really about it. Tell us, what is this movie about?
We open on a doctor talking to another person, which is then revealed to be a severed head. He then takes a serum from the microwave and injects it into presumably a body, walking off in defeat before seeing the hand move. We then go to the title sequence and an opening scene at the bar. Career woman Jennifer is celebrating her birthday, though it seems many of her friends are too busy to join her. After having a passing meeting with her boss/lover, she runs into Garrett, an old friend who has just graduated med school. She blows him off, though, still waiting on her friends. Eventually, they arrive, but make excuses to leave early. A bit upset, Jen goes home, but is assaulted with a bat. We then see a woman wake up on a medical table, as multiple voices internally complain about being hungover and not knowing where they are. The woman lurches stiffly to a room where she sees herself in a mirror. Her face is horribly scarred, with mismatched eyes, parts of skin, and her hair is half of Jen's familiar brown bob and half long blonde hair, with a line of staples along her skull. She screams and falls to the floor, flailing as the three voices panic. Jen manages to assume some control and gets the others to calm down, who introduce themselves as Ellie and Madeline. Working together to make their combined body work, they escape the basement facility and return to Jen's new condo. Spotting the bloodstain, the trio set about investigating what happened to them, as they all remember being in the same bar at roughly the same time, but nothing past that. They collectively agree to seek out Garrett for help. We then flash back to Ellie's night out. She is purposely at the bar in order to pick up. After she strikes out with a would-be artist, she is approached by a group of frat boys who wait until she is drunk before taking her back to their dorm. The leader of the group makes out with Ellie while the others watch and film it until she calls it off. She leaves the partying frat house but is swiftly run over by a van. We then return to the present, where the monster, which doesn't go named in the film but the credits list as Stitch, goes to Garrett's apartment, who takes her out to dinner and tries to organise some help. She can't handle the news that the situation is likely permanent and storms off. She happens upon Jen's boss having another affair. Stitch lies in wait and kills him. The three women revel in the thrill of the kill and vow revenge on anyone that could have been responsible for killing them. Stitch undergoes a makeover for the occasion. Now we get a flashback to Madeline's night out. She is at the bar, taking selfies and criticising her own appearance, when she is approached by a self-proclaimed celebrity. We then see her in bed until she receives a phone call. During the conversation, she opens a freezer full of body parts, and we see that the celebrity from the bar bound and gagged in her basement. Back to the present, where Stitch begins her rampage. First, she tracks down the aspiring artist, smashing her way into a bar and beating him to death, until afterwards confirming his non involvement in her predicament. Next, she takes on the frat house, maniacally killing bystanders to music and coincidentally saving another girl in Ellie's previous position. As Stitch makes to leave, she notices a van that had been following them. Inside are the surgeon's assistants. Taking them out, she happens upon medical documentation as she retreats to Garrett's place for some recovery. The two then have aggressive sex. In the morning, Garrett reads the papers, but is caught trying to burn them for Stitch's safety. She instead handcuffs him to the bed and follows the address in the paperwork. Once more, we get a flashback to Madeline, but this time, instead of at the bar, she is in a waiting room for a plastic surgery consult. Given her extensive requests, the surgeon offers a more experimental procedure, which she surprisingly agrees to. Unhappy with the replacement body parts on offer, Madeline then offers to provide her own. Using taking selfies as a cover, she targets Jen and Ellie for their looks, and then kills them, first by running Ellie over in the assistant's van, then bludgeoning Jen in her condo with a bat. Returning their bodies to the surgeon, she is then also put to sleep for the operation. We then return to the present again as Stitch breaks into the basement surgery. The surgeon is fascinated by his success and reveals to them that Madeline is the one responsible. Jen and Ellie try to kill him, only to be held back by Madeline. They argue and fight, leading the surgeon to unleash his failed creations upon her, as he needs to take Stitch apart in order to see why the procedure worked in the first place. Meanwhile, Garrett slips out of his cuffs and arrives on scene to distract the surgeon before he too gets knocked out. Before the surgeon returns, Stitch breaks out of her restraints, and as Jen and Ellie form a truce with Madeline, they set about destroying the failed creatures. The surgeon then returns to a scene of carnage. He tries to surrender to Stitch's mercy, but takes an opening to fire his gun, only for Garrett to leap in and take the bullet in Stitch's place. Madeline stops Jen and Ellie from killing the surgeon again, saying that he is necessary to make them perfect. The other two reject that idea and forcibly lobotomize the part of their brain that contains Madeline. Instead of just killing the surgeon, though, she tells him that he has work to do. We then see a man wake up under medical lights as he lurches to a room where he sees his face in a mirror. It's Garrett, but with horrible scars to match Stitch, who is happily waiting for him. Credits.
Yep, so that's a lot of fun. Obviously, Patchwork is a very heavy riff on Frankenstein, albeit from a woman's perspective and specifically from the monster's perspective, something that we get a lot of in the original novel, but we don't generally get in the films. I know for me, Frankenstein has always been sort of a core core figure in my horror fandom from very, very early on. Like I said, I started off with I always forget the name of them, but the Orange and Black books that did the Universal
Penguin?
monsters. So no, it's like Darrington House or something like that.
I know the ones you mean, but yeah, I just can't think of it either.
Yeah, those were sort of how I began my fandom. And obviously, Frankenstein was a big part of that. So the character I've always had a lot of affection for. Holly, how familiar are you with Frankenstein in any of its iterations? How much of a fan have you been of the character or story? How familiar are you with them?
Very familiar with Frankenstein.
Okay.
I read the original novel and I took a Brit Lit class in college. And then my parents had such an obsession with the Young Frankenstein movie.
Yes.
So I very much grew up on that, but I've seen the original as well.
It's Frankenstein.
Frankenstein.
Yeah, my dad quotes that one a lot. But yeah, I usually like a good version of Frankenstein. But no, I enjoyed this version of it. I thought it was an interesting take.
Yeah, 100%. Those books, by the way, are Crestwood House is the name of the book series.
They must be under a different publisher here then, because I know I can visualize the exact cover, but I have never heard of that name.
Yep, one of these days I'm going to break down, I'm going to try to find them. I have tried. in the past to try and find those books. And you're like, yeah, you can find them on eBay. They're like $70 a piece. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't want to recapture my childhood quite that strong. Especially because there's like 30, 40 books. I'm not taking out a loan to get for those. Uh, but Elle, how about you? How familiar are you with the Frankenstein story? How much of a fan are you?
I cannot give you many more details than this, but for whatever reason, the teachers at my primary school thought that we should put on a play of the Frankenstein story and that I should play Frankenstein, the monster.
Okay, okay.
I would have been 8-ish, and that is all the details that I can remember because that was way too long ago. I am not admitting to how old, but time is a bitch.
Mm-hmm. Legit.
Yeah, I've read the original novel in again, probably a Penguin classic is what they would have gotten published as here.
Yep.
And the one that actually honestly sticks with me the most is from Scooby Doo at Ghoul School.
Okay.
It's one of the infamous red shirt Shaggy movies where it's just, yeah, let's just get weird for the sake of it. So he
Right.
ends up being a substitute teacher for a school of monsters, and one of them is a aspiring basketball player inspired by the Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
There's
Yeah.
also a werewolf girl, a ghost girl, a mummy girl, because it's all girls.
Right.
This was also the same series that was the Boo Brothers, which reveals that Shaggy got his money from Confederate slave money.
Fucking wow.
Yep. That's how he affords the Mystery Machine. But he can't drive it because he hasn't got a license, which is why Fred drives it. But canonically, Shaggy owns the Mystery Machine.
Scooby Doo lore is wild. Yeah, no, legit.
I haven't even discussed where they team up with Batman.
I mean, they've teamed up with Batman a number of times.
Yeah, I'm talking the 70s version where
Yeah,
it's Adam
yeah.
West. Yeah.
Yep. Oh no, I remember those. I remember those quite well. Yeah, I am for my part, like I said, I've long been a fan of Frankenstein. Shout out to Mary Shelley, who is essentially the originator of science fiction as we know it. In terms of film and television and the like, I've seen a good number of them. I don't know if I've seen all of the Universal films featuring Frankenstein. Like, I've seen Frankenstein, I've seen Bride of Frankenstein, obviously. I can't tell you if I've seen Son of Frankenstein, but I know I've seen a lot of the films after that. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, House of Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello. And then this year, actually, I haven't. I need to get back to it because I stalled out in the mid 70s, I want to say. But I've been working my way through all of the Hammer films, and of course, they have a long series of Frankenstein films, usually with Peter Cushing playing Victor Frankenstein. And I have seen all of those. They are of varying quality, but I believe there's only one that doesn't have Cushing in it. And if Peter Cushing's in it, it's at least worth watching. And then, I mean, we can move up into Young Frankenstein. I haven't seen The Bride, which is the one that stars Sting from the Police as Dr. Frankenstein.
You really had me concerned there for a second where I was like, which Sting is he going to mention?
Not the wrestler, no, the rock musician. I've seen Monster Squad. There are some really bad Frankenstein films from the teens. I Frankenstein and a couple others in there. So yeah, fairly extensive experience with Frankenstein. This is I like this take overall. It's not perfect by any stretch, but I think we have a really interesting kind of subversive take, which is exactly what I would expect from McIntyre, considering Tragedy Girls. Instead of the singular notion of the monster and sort of an outside perspective, like a lot of Frankenstein movies will focus on Victor because they render their Frankensteins as nonverbal monsters, and that's kind of a boring character to follow around with. This obviously does it differently. We have the three characters all combined into one body. We have all their voices. We occasionally see them individually whenever they're interacting with each other. Elle, what do you think of these characters individually and how the script and the direction depicts them and their interactions with each other and how that all plays out?
I mean, from the outset, they're fairly stereotypical characters. Like you have, the one that's all business, no nonsense. You have the party girl, and then you have like the quiet, bookwormish type.
Hmm.
But that lets you build up on the characters somewhat. Something I didn't notice the first time, like I watched it, but have since in the now two times that I have rewatched it, which is huge for me. I
That's
think
a
we've
lot for
discussed
you.
this. Yeah, is how subtly cold Madeline is.
Hmm.
Like she is oddly removed from everything. But then knowing the twist going in, it's like, oh, that's very good acting.
Yes.
And yeah, I think even like it got mentioned in the notes that Tori Stolper is playing Jen and Stitch using mannerisms and like differences in like body language to convey all three of the characters.
Yes.
It's very well done in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I really like Stolper's performance. I like all of the performances. I think if I were strictly putting my harsh critic's hat on, I would say there are varying levels of quality in the performances between the three. I think Stolper is probably giving the best performance. I agree with you. Madeline is off putting to the point that I was a little concerned early on that it was by far the weakest performance. And I still think that's a character that I have a harder time connecting to, which is probably a good thing. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But I think it is probably the least effective performance of the three for me, but I like how it unveils the different parts of each character as things go on. And I really like the way it portrays each of the characters as very individual when we get to the scenes of them interacting. And it's a smart move for McIntyre to just say, and Hill, who, this had to have been something that was in the script for obvious reasons, but to depict them as separate individuals when we're basically focusing on them interacting. It does wonders for their dynamic and how they play off of each other. And it does a pretty good job of accounting for, like, we will see them sort of arguing or debating something, and then we'll go back to the combined body, and we will see that in how Stitch is behaving, which I thought was pretty well done. Yeah, I found myself very, very invested in these characters, which is probably a good thing. We'll talk a little bit about the other characters in a little bit, but not as much there on the bone. Let's just put it that way. Holly, what do you think of these characters? How do you like them? How do the performances and the characterizations work for you?
So, um, first of all, yeah, I like them. I mentioned I love this concept. I love the scenes
Hmm.
with the three of them talking to each other and how they're in like the different settings wherever the creature is instead of it just being like one room where they're all talking to each other.
Hmm.
And I like that they use different elements. But yeah, so at the beginning, it was a lot of Jennifer and Ellie. And I mean, I found Ellie relatable to me because I was like, oh, she was like me in high school. And at the same time, I really like Jennifer to the point where I kept forgetting the third girl's name because I was like, no, she has a name, right? And I felt really bad, and I was like, I'm sure she'll, her backstory is she's like really forgotten or something, and always a fly on the wall.
Right.
But then as it progressed, because it's funny because you were like, I relate to her the least. And it progressed, and I was like, oh, this is me now. And the guy tied up in the basement, her
Yeah.
her body parts. I kind of thought she was the best thing about, like, yes, I think the acting performance for Jennifer was probably the strongest, but I thought Madeline was just killing it and just about the best thing ever.
Literally.
Yeah, literally, yes.
You
Take
said
no
the
mercy.
thing.
If I was to go on a killing spree for body parts, I mean, this is how I would do it. So
That is absolutely fair. Yep.
So you're definitely not saying that we should file a report to check in on any missing hand models in your area.
don't worry about it. No.
No, it's
Okay.
fine. It's fine.
I trust you.
I need to bring up, though, just the forgotten MVP of this film, OWLCAT.
OWLCAT, yes.
Yeah, it's so
Wasn't
good.
mentioned.
It's so
I mean,
good.
honestly, like, I want to say the film needed more OWLCAT, but I think it was the perfect amount of OWLCAT.
Yeah. The same. Like,
Really.
I was hoping we get more, but then I was like, nah, this is
No.
enough. It's fine.
And I swear to God, the moment at the end where the scientist is unleash the OWLCAT, and then it just fucks off. Perfect.
I love the music that's playing, and then it's just
Yep.
bye.
Like, for anyone who hasn't seen this, which is a shame because I think you should,
Yes.
the OWLCAT that we are discussing is one of the most puppet-looking puppets that you could have ever seen.
It
If
looked
they
like one
had
of my kids' plushies.
If they had suspended it by a string with a piece of like a stick to hold it up and just moved it that way, it would not look awry.
I'm pretty sure, I may be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a Furby.
Its
Like,
beak does look like a Furby.
It is Furby adjacent.
Yeah, that was my first. Like, when I saw it, I literally just thought it was a Furby the first time you see it. I was like, oh no, it's an actual, well, within the narrative, it's an actual animal. But yeah, it is delightful. It is the best. It is the best thing. And I think that the producers missed a gold mine by not taking whatever small amount of marketing they had for this film and instead just putting it into trying to sell OWLCATs.
Oh no, I have a great toy line idea for OWLCAT. It's the new Furby.
Yes, very much so.
We'll make millions.
Yep, just put a jetpack on it so it can fly and there'll be no flaws.
We'll put it like inside of it, so it
Right.
can still be cuddly and stuff. Because every child loves a toy with a jetpack inside of it.
That is true. 100%. So yeah, getting in a little bit more of the thematic aspects. This film speaks to some really interesting themes in terms of female empowerment, its approach to the concept of beauty ideals. There's definitely a skewering of bro culture, and particularly dissociative identity disorder is absolutely a read that I picked up on. Elle, how effective are these themes for you?
Yeah, I wonder what it is about this movie that
Yeah,
stuck out to me.
I was going to say, I was like, well, I can see where this hits for L.
Uh, to be fair, I will point it out this is not technically dissociative identity disorder because there is no
Correct.
dissociation.
No, this is more allegorical in terms of those themes.
Absolutely, yeah. This is a lot closer to how I experience things. Not quite as
Mm-hmm.
combative, but
Right.
the internalized room with the multiple people. It's like that is how my brain kind of works. And it never really made as much sense when I was younger. And it took honestly being around others who were like experiencing the same kind of thing for it to sort of crystallize.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it really does hit those beats at the very least. I mean, I can't speak much to female empowerment or the ideals of beauty, but I can
Right.
absolutely see where someone more versed in that experience might be able to pick up on notes of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, oh yeah, I can see it, but it's not like I've got any in depth analysis that is technically right for me to say.
Right. No, for sure.
It's like, oh no, let's push all the women out of the discussion. Let me have a chat.
Yes,
It's like,
100%. Uh,
probably not.
no, for sure. I will say, acknowledging that it is a film written by, to the best of my knowledge, two cis straight men about female empowerment and the pressures of beauty standards, keeping that in mind a little bit. I will simply say I don't think that it's perfect, but I can see where it's coming from. Holly, how well do these themes play out from your perspective?
I think pretty well because I mean, immediately I was like, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. I mean, I relate more on the female empowerment, which I love, and I love the idea of just murdering every man that has ever wronged you, even if it's
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Because those thoughts do go through my head when I'm going to be arrested because of this podcast one day. Um,
Oh, this is nothing you haven't said on our actual plays. It's fine.
this is going to be like used in court against me. Okay.
Uh,
But it's fine. I mean, if they got away with it in the movie, I can get away with it in real life. So
100%.
it's
We are
fine.
speaking strictly hypothetically.
Absolutely. I'll have to check on the dog in a minute, but yes, hypothetically.
But yeah, like I will say, I don't think that it's perfect on this stuff. I strongly suspect that there was not a lot of female influence in the creation of this script. Now, I say that at the same time as acknowledging that this film absolutely just eviscerates the notion of bro culture, I would say, the general rapiness, for lack of a better way to put it,
Mm-hmm.
of most of the characters. And I actually kind of appreciate the fact that it focuses on these three to the point that none of the guys are really characters. And I include the two primary male characters in this. I will say one of the things that I do really enjoy about this, which we've talked about with a recent film, is that this is another one of those movies I love so much in the good for her genre because we are celebrating female rage here, played specifically in the horror comedy format. I think personally, some of the highlights of the movie are just seeing the three of them just going around and straight up murking the people that wronged them. And I kind of delight in some of the scenes where, like, it was a celebrity guy. Were you with him the entire night? Yes? All right, I'm killing him anyways, and now I'm going.
Oh no, that was the artist guy, I think.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's like I don't really like the term create right now. I'm just, my art speaks for itself.
Yeah,
Des-
yeah, the pretentious guy that we've all run into at some point.
deserved to die even if he wasn't a douche. But yeah, how does I know horror comedy is something that you generally are a fan of, right?
Oh yeah.
how well does the script hit the comedic beats? How do you like the balance in the horror and the comedy here? Because that is always a very tricky balance to reach. Whether you're going to go more on the horror side, more on the comedy side. How well does it work here for you?
It's interesting because I looked back at my first review for this, like just when I happened to find it. I put it down a bit because of that mix. It's
Hmm.
like literally, and I quote, a take on horror that I feel leans too heavily on the comedy to be beneficial to either side of the genre split. But it's
Right.
like seeing it now, it's like, no, it actually flows better than I gave it credit for.
Hmm.
It's like, it doesn't need to be as overt as, I think, what am I thinking of? The, like, Leprechaun series, for example.
Right.
That is a little bit more on the nose comedically than some other films. But yeah, I think this one lands that balance a bit better.
Yeah, legit. I'm the same way. I definitely horror comedy. It is a tricky balance to get right, and so many films get it wrong. But if you can find the right mix for your movie, because it's different for everyone, right? Like, I see a strong difference between comedy horror and horror comedy.
Absolutely.
And I think this one is a little bit more, I would say, comedy horror than horror comedy. Nothing about this is going to put most people under the blanket or peeking over the couch, but I think that's appropriate to the story too. It's very much taking inspiration from movies like Reanimator, which I don't know if either of you guys have ever seen.
No, but hearing how it's
No.
like part of this film's DNA makes me want to watch it.
It's very so Stuart Gordon, great filmmaker, did a lot of movies that were adapted, inspired, etc. by Lovecraft. Reanimator is an adaptation of the H.P. Lovecraft story Herbert West Reanimator. It's basically Lovecraft doing Frankenstein and gives it an absolutely batshit spin. It is very much along this kind of tone. I think it goes more into the horror. There are a lot more content warnings for that one. I will put it that way.
Mhm.
But I definitely see that sensibility running through this. I don't have the budget that Stuart Gordon has. I think they do use the budget actually fairly well, all things considered. Yeah, I think it does a really good job with hitting that balance, making these characters ones we can get behind, and really kind of just enjoy watching them go out on their rampage. I think that those scenes in sort of towards the end of the second act are some of the most fun I have in the movie. Watching them beat the shit. I could have watched a whole movie of that. Just that.
Yep. Well, it would have been what, maybe part four, I think it is, or part
Hmm.
five, because the film is like, as I was saying in the synopsis, like the flashbacks and cut forwards, they are as distinct parts, like labeled.
Yes.
It's whichever part is just labeled Rampage.
Yep. Whole movie of it. Give it to me. Holly, how about you? How does the horror comedy play in this? Does it hit the right balance for you? Actually, what is your generally preferred balance of horror and comedy when you're watching that subgenre?
So I will say, for me, it was almost too much comedy. Like,
Mhm.
but after a while, so going into the film, I thought this film was gonna be like a body horror type film that was going to very much disturb me.
Right.
So this was like not what I was expecting going into it. So I was very much pleasantly surprised.
Mhm.
I do think that and it worked for what it is. They could
Right.
have spent a little more time on, I mean, especially Ellie and Jennifer on their backstories, because both of them led kind of sad lives.
Mhm.
And you could have spent more time focusing on those elements and then maybe leaving more of the comedy stuff till the end with the rampage and everything.
That's fair. And it does, in fairness, this is what, 84 minutes? Even 7, 8 more minutes would have given us a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of a chance to delve into those stories again, particularly Ellie. Like, Ellie does kind of get a little bit of a short shrift in terms of characterization. Not that she's a nothing character. That's not the case at all.
Right.
But I definitely would have liked to know more. I'm in agreement with you on that.
Yeah, I think like if it were not quite as like indie film feeling as it is, like just a
Mm-hmm.
little bit like an extra grand or two in the bank of budget, or instead of 15 days, maybe take the 20. Just
Right.
that little bit extra, I think it really could have been a super standout film because you would have gotten that little bit more in depth. Let it cook just that little bit longer.
Yep. I can agree with that. How does, obviously, it varies from film to film, but in general, what is your preferred mix of horror and comedy? So, like for me, I would say if we're talking just on a generic level, I'm kind of half and half. I want to be amused, but I also do like to be creeped out or disturbed. I do generally like the tenser moments that hit the horror aspect. Elle, what about you? Where does your preference for that lie?
I think for me, it depends on how those more horror tinted moments, like the tension and sort of breakup, how they're treated. Because if it's
Mm-hmm.
just tension to a jump scare, that can just take a long walk off a short pier. But if it's to like something that is engagingly horrifying, like
Right.
actually in depth, then that's better. But then with the comedy aspect, you kind of need to like find the right brevity for it. I prefer, I think, slightly more comedy than horror in my movie watching, but
Mm-hmm.
it depends on the horror. Like this, it's like I think it got about as close to the borderline of comedy for horror for me because it is mostly a little bit of a gore fest rather than any sort of impending dread or things like that.
Right.
It's like if you put this level of comedy in, for example, The Night House, that would just make it absurd. Like that is too much for what it's trying to do. But it
Yeah.
definitely needed some. Jesus Christ.
I mean, we will debate that film between the two of us for the end of time. Uh,
You mean that wasn't the laugh fest for you? That was for me?
I mean,
wh-
I would prefer a movie to have a movie in it.
there is a movie in it.
There
Where?
is. It might.
No, but it's like, yeah, that,
No,
that
no,
would
I
get the
get.
balance way out.
Oh yes, no. I definitely want lots of laughs and humor in in my movie about grief-based horror. Yes.
Yeah,
Actually,
but
you know what? I want to see a spoof of grief horror at this point.
because, God, it's bleak enough as it is.
There's so much of it at this point. You could write a whole ass spoof movie just on grief horror.
But yeah, it's different tones of
Yeah.
horror to different levels of
Yeah.
comedy. But by and large, I would say generalized horror, nothing sort of specific. It'd be a 40-60 mix. I want that bit more comedy in my horror than I want horror in my comedy.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Holly, how about you? What is your preferred ratio? Again, assuming that it is appropriate to whatever story is being
Yeah, I mean, I kind of agree with Al on the like 60-40. I need a little more horror, in my opinion,
told. Mm-hmm.
but and comedy that complements it well. There is a movie that we will be doing, which will be my next choice,
Yes,
which I think does it very well. I think is a very good example.
I agree. It's funny because that one we'll get into that one in a few weeks' time. I feel like that's like 70-30 horror and comedy.
So I might
Um,
just be a sicko. There are parts of that film where I probably shouldn't be laughing my head off, but I do.
I
I
legit
mean,
listen.
I'll bring it up when we do it, but it's
Look, I don't think you have to worry about the sicko allegations coming from me.
Yeah, listen, I just watched Weapons, which is the new Zach Krager movie. And for a movie that's ostensibly about a bunch of kids from one classroom vanishing, I laughed a lot in it. So yeah, horror comedy, I think I am a little bit more on the horror than the comedy as a rule. The best way I can explain this is obviously every genre and everything is subjective, but I think horror is a little bit more universal, where comedy tends to be a lot more subjective from person to person. So I think if you lean more into the horror, you will probably have a more successful film to audiences as a whole. And that's just where my personal sensibilities lie.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Especially if you put it in a good for her motif, because as we have discussed before, that is fucking catnip for me. So yeah. So getting into a part that I think we might diverge on a little bit, because I don't know necessarily how successful this is. And we are talking about the big twist late in the film where we find out that Madeline is a serial killer who orchestrated Jennifer and Ellie's capture. I'm just not certain about it. Holly, how does it work for you?
I laughed the entire time. Like I did the second it was revealed. And she's like, let's go. What if I get my own? I mean, it made sense though, because she has a
It does.
refrigerator of body parts.
It
Uh,
does make sense.
that said, I thought we were going to go a different angle, because something that was not touched on again was the celebrity guy still in her basement.
Uh huh.
Because when they wake up in the body in Stitch and they're all like saying different things, she says, I need to check on my dog.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, so he is still in there.
Oh yeah.
So I thought what was going to happen was like, okay, well, I've helped the other two. Now I need to tell them what's going on with me, because I thought it was going to be like, oh, this guy has like escaped from her basement or something. And now they're going to like go track him down and they're going to like help her out.
Yeah, because she's also like insistent. Well, not really insistent, but out of nowhere kind of brings up going back to her place when they're like looking for what to do next.
Uh
Yeah.
huh.
And it's like, well, that's a little bit out of left field to bring that up, but it kind of makes sense. So okay, I'll just the ball can keep rolling down the field on that one.
Right. It's. Yeah, I have my thoughts. Elle, how does this particular twist? And this is, for the record, this is absolutely, there is a difference between a twist and a reveal. This is absolutely a twist because it completely changes what you thought was going on. How does this twist play for you?
Yeah, because it's almost like the double layer of like that reveal, where it's like, oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
she's a serial killer, but then she is also responsible for them being together. Where it's
Right.
like, oh, she was a serial killer, and there is still something else at play. Like that,
Mm-hmm.
that almost threw me because it's like in hindsight, it makes perfect sense considering like
Sure.
what she was like thinking about and talking about at the bar, and that she is up for murder.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think like until the first time like that reveal got done, is like I was still like, oh no, that's really interesting that she's a serial killer. I wonder what still happened.
Right.
But then it's like, oh well, yeah, of course, okay, duh, it makes sense. So yeah, I think that landed pretty well for me.
Okay, that's fair. Here's my issue with it. I was on board with it. I was actually very happy when we found out that Madeline was a serial killer, because A, I love serial killer characters. B, I enjoy complicated, flawed, interesting characters. And again, when we're talking about the performances, it recontextualizes what I initially thought was perhaps the weakest performance of the three. So I
Mm,
was on board with that. I was on board with the reveal that Madeline was behind it, because I think there are some interesting things to explore there in terms of, again, if we're going into the thematic context of it, there is some interesting stuff there in terms of the conflict between different ways of feminism, the, for lack of a better way to put it, the Jennifer's bodiness of the complex nature of female friendship is probably the best way to put it. There's interesting stuff in there in terms of all of that stuff. And my issue is it doesn't feel like the story is interested in engaging on those points or doing much with it, to the point that about 30 seconds after Jennifer and Ellie find out, Madeline is functionally dead. That's kind of where my issue with it lies. It sets up this really interesting thing and then doesn't do much with it.
That is fair.
Yeah, like as I said, if this were given slightly longer to cook, I think there would be more time between the "oh, I am a serial killer" and
Yep.
"I am responsible for this." Like there would
Yeah.
be time for Jen and Ellie to react to that before needing to react to the bigger one.
Hmm.
Where it's like, oh, how does this work? Oh, no, okay, well, we're just going to have to kill you now.
Right.
Yeah.
If I have an issue with this film, I have a couple small issues. This is kind of the major one. It's like it sets up this really interesting dynamic and then doesn't have time for it because we need to get to the action points of the finale and wrap it up. Holly, I'm going to assume that you really like the serial killer twist.
I mean, she's a serial killer. I
Right.
love serial killers. In movies.
Yes, in movies.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally.
Fuck the
In
real
movies.
life ones.
Yeah. No, I mean, this movie was very like camp and comedy, and I think it just worked with it. Because
Yeah.
I thought, yeah, this is over the top, like ridiculous, but that's where this movie is going. Like that's what it's been.
Right.
So I think it flowed.
Fair enough. So yeah, we outside of obviously the majority of this film, we are focusing on these three characters. We do have a couple secondary characters. I'm not counting any of the bro guys because
They're really good, guys.
yeah. I couldn't tell you any of their names. They're not characters. They're there to represent individual things for the girls to destroy, and I'm down for that.
I think it was Dave, Doug, and other Doug.
Sounds
And
yes, yeah. Oh no, that was I have to shout out. That is one of my favorite lines in the movie. There is after he kills it's Cody, Jody, Toby, Brad, and Brett. Both Brads.
yeah, like in the news report, they're going through all the people that like Stitch has killed. It's like, yeah, we
Yep.
lost a lot of good brothers.
Yep.
Cody, Jody,
Yeah.
Brody, Brad, with both Rads.
Yep. It's
Lot
so
of real
good.
dudes.
There are backtracking just a little bit. Some of the comedic beats are so, and particularly in the way that it is just unreservedly making fun of these fucking douchebags is brilliant.
My favorite comedic bit is like the surgeon's commercial that you see in the background.
Mm-hmm.
Like every shot is
Yes.
putting on the stethoscope over his neck, and it's just like the over exaggerated like midnight TV commercial of like, I am doing this for you, point to the
Yep. Yep.
camera, and then cut after an awkward silence.
It comes off as very used car ad.
But not that would get shown beside in any time except between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
It's very much like middle of the night 90s infomercial style.
Mm-hmm.
Which really works because that was, at least for me, it works very much for me because that was a time I was up late night watching cheesy ass horror stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it fits in that sort of sci fi horror Frankensteinian kind of thing really well. The monsters or the Tales from the Dark Side, Tales from the Crypt kind of stuff.
And it's also like that in-universe version of that trope of the weirdly prescient TV news that's relevant for the
Yep.
character. It's like, yeah, no, it's just on in the background and she's not even paying attention to it. It's like, no, if you paid attention, this is actually in your immediate future.
Yep.
Foreshadowing.
But yeah, outside of the bros, we have Garrett and we have the surgeon. Those are the only real characters outside of our three leads.
OWLCAT.
Because I certainly don't even count the surgeon's assistants. Although, again, comedic beat I have to shout out is when Stitch comes to the door and is hacking down the door with the axe, and the taller one, the one that eats in the lab, goes to investigate and then just stands there and stares at the door until it busts down. That made me laugh. But what do we think about the actual two characters? Again, we've got Garrett, who's played by James Phelps. We have this surgeon who's played by Corey Sorensen. What do we think of these two? What do you think of the romance angle?
I think I could have done with the surgeon being a touch more melodramatic, just to lean into that camp a little bit more. It's like if I found out that he had a lightning sound effect generator so he could do the insane laughter, it's like, yeah, that would fit. Just a on command.
Right.
And for like Garrett is in a weird spot because it felt like he was the weakest performance in the entire thing.
Aha.
Like the romance angle is like I could see why they weren't unanimously like on having sex with him, because you have the two forces of id in the unrepentant serial killer and the party girl against the one woman that actually knows him and is like, no, I can't really.
Yep.
So yeah, it kind of felt a little bit weirdly out of place, but also it makes sense because it's a majority vote.
Right. No, for sure.
Yeah, I don't get the romance aspect of it. This is totally something that's like a one night stand or occasional fling kind of thing. It's like, hey, I need action, come over. And that's all it needed to be. And that's fine. Because those types of relationships exist.
They absolutely do. But it does turn into, I mean, clearly by the end, it turns into more than that.
Yeah, so I actually have issue with the very ending of it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, why did he need the scars on the face? It's not like he's multiple people that we know of. He got shot in, like, the dowel.
Right?
Like,
Thank
near
you.
the
I had
lung,
that
under a
question
rib.
too.
It's like, did he really need to be stitched together from that? Because if you're doing it just so you match, that's kind of not cool.
Right.
That's a little bit of entrapment in a relationship right there. It's like, well, who else are
little
you going
bit.
to go to? Who else are you going to go to?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't disagree. Holly, what about you? What do you think of these two characters? The romance, like how does this part of it play out?
The romance wasn't needed.
Mm-hmm.
I think Garrett was fine. So I didn't even realize who that actor was until like later, because I was like, he looks so familiar, and then I realized he was from the Harry Potter movies.
Holy shit!
Oh, you didn't realize
Yeah.
who that was either. Okay. Yeah,
I
no, that's
remember,
Fred Weasley.
yeah, I saw a review, and it's like, hey, have you ever wanted to watch one of the Weasley twins have sex with a corpse?
Holy shit!
I mean, this is just Fred's afterlife. So,
Yeah, he can get all of it that he wants.
Oh my god, no, because I know the name. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, wow,
okay,
looked
so you didn't
familiar.
realize. Yeah.
Looked familiar, and the name James Phelps struck a. This is familiar to me, but no, I did not make that connection at all. And okay, wow.
Yeah, so I thought acting wise his performance was fine. I don't think he was given enough is the thing. Like he was more of just a straight man. And he did fine with what he was given.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't think the romance angle was needed. I just
Yeah. So I am going to disagree with you on the performance. I think it
okay.
is a really bad performance, and a bad performance on screen is not always the actor's fault. I want to be clear on that. It depends on what edits the director chooses. There are a number of reasons if you can be directed to act in a certain way. It is shocking to me that this is the same person. Not that the Weasleys are giving the absolute most compelling performance in those films. They're fine.
Well, they're not. I'm not gonna get on my Harry Potter soapbox.
Yeah, well,
Okay, really quickly though. Sorry, because I'm rereading through the books with Griffin. Um,
yeah.
they are huge characters in the books.
Yes, they're nothing in the movie.
Because like Fred was like my favorite character in the books
Right.
when they were coming out, and yeah, they are huge characters in the books, and then to take away from that, because that is something that Griffin's complained about in the movies, because he's like, why do
Mhm.
they keep having, because he loves them. I'm so afraid for when we get to the last book, but he loves the Weasley
Yeah,
twins,
fair.
and he keeps getting upset that they're not given enough to do on screen. Okay, off my soapbox.
No, you're good. The performances in those films, he's fine. Here, I kept feeling like, and it might be the character, it felt very disaffected to me in a way that is out of step with every other character in the film. Like everybody else is engaged. He's just kind of like, huh, this thing is happening. And it didn't play well. And that is, listen, I am a sucker for a good romance angle in almost any movie. I am down for a good rom com. I am down for a good doomed romance in a slasher film or whatever the case may be. I was left completely cold by this film. I understand why the character's there, and in the story, it works. Like in the narrative on the page, I just don't think the character, the performance, I think it kills it for me.
Mm.
It does lead to another like comedic moment where it's like he's talking to the surgeon at towards the end, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no one would even miss me if I were gone." It's like, "Oh really? Yeah, no, they're all
Right.
overseas," and
That was good. Yes.
yeah, just like completely setting up your own like red flag, mate. Come on.
Uh-huh. That was really good. And yeah, it just I agree with you, Elle, that the ending honestly, I feel like the ending would have been better. I don't like fantasy booking and say, well, it didn't do this particular story beat that I wanted to do, therefore it did a wrong thing. But I do feel like it would have been a better movie if you just kill Garrett off.
Yeah.
I want to see Stitch running around killing people. I don't need a romance there, especially one where there isn't any real chemistry. And it really only turns into a romance when there is a rage-filled sex scene of dubious consent.
Hmm.
Like, yeah,
There is also one little Easter egg that I just picked up on this rewatch in that sort of scene. It's like, yeah, all normal, like bedroom and then whatnot. When you see him getting handcuffed to the bed, a textbook has been pulled out of his pile that just says the female body. It's like, well, clearly he needed to stop in between and research.
right, of course.
It's like right in the middle of it, but it's just like, wait, let me actually find out what I'm supposed to be doing here. It's
Right.
like, hey, I don't think you need to worry about that. She's got it under control.
Yep, legit. So yeah, that is we've got a lot of thoughts on the film itself. Let's get into some related recommendations. Elle, what would you suggest to people who enjoyed this film and would like to see something more along this line?
I mentioned it earlier, but the thing that came to mind was the Leprechaun series, just because it has
Okay,
that feeling of like irreverence to horror almost.
right.
And it's like, yeah, I could totally see this almost taking place in the same universe.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. Holly, how about you?
I think I would recommend Lisa Frankenstein.
That is okay. Yes. Yep. I really like Lisa Frankenstein.
I do too. And is it on our list? I don't mean to add to our very long list.
No. Add
Please,
all you
please.
want. We're going to keep
Okay,
adding
no, you
stuff
need
to
to
it.
add that on. But yes, because that one, and I think that one has a better balance of the comedy, and I mean, it's all camp, and
Right.
I like the camp.
Yep. No,
It's a
for
lot
sure.
of fun.
I really like Lisa Frankenstein. Mine is, I'm going to go. Now, I need to preface this by saying that I have not seen this movie in probably 25 years. So I cannot speak to its sensibilities at this point, other than it is intentionally, it's Frankenhooker.
I keep
Hmm.
hearing about that, and I have never seen it.
Put
It
it on the
is
list.
It is over the top. I seem to remember it being incredibly risque and not particularly politically correct. So I cannot vouch for how well it plays out because, again, it's been probably 25 years. My mindset was different. My memories of it, I remember certain parts, but it is a Frankenstein movie that is full on dark comedy. Again, from a female perspective, I do remember it very much treats the character as a character. But yeah, that's going to be my recommendation, my dubious recommendation. Anyways, so getting back to Patchwork, let's do our final thoughts. Holly, what are your final thoughts on it? What rating will you give it?
So, all right, I know Elle loves this movie. I am not like
Uh-huh.
trying to offend or anything, and I promise I'm not going to do what Elle did to me with Watcher in the Woods.
Well,
So,
You're not
tell the
bitter, are
truth.
you?
oh, I'm not bitter at all. No, I don't cry about it every night. So I think it's a fun movie.
Right.
There is not the best balance of acting performances, though. It's a fun thing to watch if you need something to watch, but I think I'm gonna give it 2.5 OWLCATs out of 5.
Legit. That's fair.
Yeah.
I'm going to. I like it a little bit more. Like, I was fully on board. If the last act was different, this would probably be a good 3.5 for me. But that last act is a little bit of a killer. Everything is grooving up to that point. I will give it 3 correctly murdered frat boys out of 5. Elle, how about you?
Yeah, rewatching it, I don't know. Maybe if I was in a better frame of mind this time around, or that knowing what to expect made it that little bit better. But I originally gave it 3. I think this time it's going to be 4. It'll be 4 restapled on fingers out of 5. But I'd be tempted to knock it up to a 5 if I can get an actual living OWLCAT. I am extremely bribable.
Nice. But yeah, that is Patchwork. Next episode, we're going to be delving into superhero horror. This is my pick, and we will be exploring the 2020. I think it's a 2020 film. I don't know. It had like 17 release dates. But we are going into the Fox X-Men franchise with the New Mutants. I am going to have things to say about this one.
I would hope so. We record a podcast.
I mean, I'm going to have a lot of things to say. Some of them might be positive. Anyways, that will be next episode. Meanwhile, if you want to find us, you can find us at whatever. I mean, if you want to find us, you're listening to us now, so you've already found us. But if you stumbled upon this one episode in some way, you can find us at whatever podcatcher you prefer. We are also on Blue Sky and Instagram at Final Ghouls Pod.
And if you can leave a rating or a review, we'd like a 5 stars. Tell you what, film yourself doing it. First one to do so will win a prize.
You will not win a prize. We do not have prizes to give.
No, it's just not going to be an impressive one, but
Meanwhile, you can find me at jthomas411mania on Blue Sky, Letterboxd, Instagram, pretty much anywhere that you want to go.
You can find me at shards@kind.social on Mastodon and Shard System on Letterboxd because I refuse to leave my walled gardens.
And you can find me at Hollycope on Blue Sky and at Miniature Magic 18 on Instagram.
And you can find all of us playing role playing games at Final Show Film on Twitch and YouTube. Elle, what is our horror book survival guide tip this episode?
The survival tip is that you shouldn't dig up strange looking objects that you find in the woods.